today, have trolling and hate become the core and essential identity of the post-Trump GOP? The question I'm asking today in my daily take over at HartmannReport.com. Donald Trump says that if Judge Tanya Chutkan orders him not to reveal details of his indictment, that is to say things like the names and addresses of people who might be witnesses against him. A protective order is not a gag order. He's not being told he can't talk about this. That's what he's saying on the campaign trail because he lies through his teeth to get his cult followers all whipped up. Nobody is trying to gag him. Nobody is saying, no, you can't talk about this case. What they're saying is you can't take information that is going to be presented to the jury and spin it yourself and present it to the American public before the jury sees it. And this is an age-old principle. What Donald Trump is trying to do is called jury tampering and witness intimidation. And it's illegal. And that's what the protective order will do, is it will say, you can't do this. And he's going to go ahead and do it anyway. He just said that last night, said it the night before last too. So what we're seeing here is trolling. I mean, like good old-fashioned, kind of Twitter trolling kind of trolling, where you take a fact or a reality and twist it all out of proportion so it makes no sense, which is what Trump is doing. Like I said, nobody's talking about gagging him. There is no gag order here. What they're talking about is saying there's going to be confidential information in this indictment that you will receive through discovery or, that will be presented in court. And it's to be presented in court, not to be presented in the media. So, anyhow, we've been under the sway of right-wing trolls before. This is, Joe McCarthy was probably the most famous right-wing troll in my lifetime. And, his two most famous things are saying, don't ever say Democratic Party, it sounds too friendly. Say Democrat Party with an emphasis on the rat. And his other famous saying, America is not a democracy, it's a republic, because a republic sounds more like Republican. Those echo on. I mean, this has become an article of faith in the GOP and on Fox so-called news to say Democrat Party rather than Democratic Party. But this trolling has become basically like all the GOP has anymore. They're all, they've just become complete snowflakes. It's on the one hand, the slightest thing causes them to freak out and melt down. And on the other hand, they revel in basically assaulting people, like rolling coal, blowing smoke in front of Priuses and electric vehicles. The free helicopter rides for liberals T-shirts that invoke Pinochet's murders. Militia groups and hate groups showing up at school board meetings and making a scene, the general hysteria. Owning the libs is like the core value now of today's Republican Party. Now, why would that be? I think it's because, frankly, this is all the Republican Party has. Back in the 80s, when the modern Republican Party was, being formed, essentially, as the Reagan Party, Reagan had some ideas that were untested, untried. I mean, yeah, you could say Warren Harding tried them and all that kind of stuff, but, it was a new era and people didn't remember Warren Harding. And so, Reagan came along and said, the top income tax rate is 74%. If we drop it down to 25%, then those job creators are going to have a bunch of extra money. They'll use that money to build factories because they want to make more money, and those factories will employ more people. And people were like, oh, yeah, well, I guess that makes a certain amount of sense. And so they went along with Reagan dropping the top income tax rate. So that today, your average American billionaire pays 3.4% income taxes. And I guarantee you, you're paying more than that. Even if you're retired on Social Security, you're probably paying more than that. But this is all they've got. I mean, Reagan said that. Reagan also tried to convince us that NAFTA, I mean, he and George H.W. Bush negotiated NAFTA, the whole treaty thing. Bill Clinton signed it, of course. That, if we just send 45,000 factories overseas, 15 million good jobs, union jobs, that'll create a renaissance in America because it'll open up all this space for great white-collar jobs. And instead of being, factory rats, you're going to become computer programmers. And again, people were like, well, I don't know, but it seems like it's a new era. The internet is kind of a cool thing, and it's exploding. It's doing well. So, yeah, we'll give it a try. Well, all of that stuff that Reagan, and Reagan was like, oh, we're going to gut the EPA, right? Ann Gorsuch, Neil Gorsuch's mother, she had to resign in disgrace from the EPA as administrator of the EPA to avoid being prosecuted for bribery and other crimes. But his pitch was, deregulation, it'll free up the private sector to be more productive and more profitable, and therefore they'll take that money and they'll increase your paycheck. Now, again, didn't work out that way. You could say it was a lie. You could even say Reagan knew it was a lie. I'm not sure that's true. I mean, it didn't work out. But now, we're standing on the wreckage of Reaganism. The American middle class has gone from 2/3 of us when Reagan took office in 1981 to 45%, 43% of us today, according to the Pew Center. 43%. Fewer than half of Americans are in the middle class anymore. So what does the Republican Party have? I mean, all of the things that they offered as new ideas and grand solutions, Paul Ryan's new ideas, which was more tax cuts for billionaires, Ronald Reagan's new ideas, they all have been disgraced. Not only disgraced, Donald Trump ran against them. Remember 2016? Donald Trump said he was going to raise income taxes so high that his rich friends wouldn't talk to him. Donald Trump said, Reagan, you'll recall, warned us that Medicare and Medicaid were socialism and they would destroy America. Donald Trump campaigned on replacing Obamacare with a national health care system that covered everybody and did so cheaper than Obamacare. He ran against Reagan. Reagan told us if we shipped our factories overseas, wonderful things would happen. Donald Trump campaigned on bringing our factories back. So here you had the GOP come out and say, here's all these great new ideas. Isn't this cool stuff? And Americans were like, okay, we'll give it a try. It didn't work out. Trump comes along and says, hey, it didn't work out. I'm going to do the opposite of all that Reagan stuff. He gets elected, and then he doesn't do what he said he was going to do. Instead of raising taxes, he cuts taxes. Instead of expanding health care, he reduces health care. Instead of, bringing jobs back from overseas, he negotiates a new version of NAFTA that actually gives a 50% tax cut to any American corporation that moves a factory to Mexico. So what do they have? What does the Republican Party have? They've got nothing. So all they can do is sell hate and fear. Oh my God, the queer people are coming for your kids. Oh my God, the black people are going to burn down the cities. Oh my God, the Hispanics are going to rape your wife and daughter. Oh my God, this is all they have to sell. Because they have no policies. Please, Republicans who are listening to me, call and name one policy, one positive policy that the GOP has. They're not even willing to engage with Reagan's comprehensive immigration reform, which is desperately needed again. They've got nothing except hate and fear and trolling. Can a country survive when one of its two major political parties becomes basically a party of trolls? I personally think what's going to happen is that the GOP is going to get so crushed in 2024 nationwide that it's going to cause them to sit down and say, okay, enough of this. We've got to go back to doing what Reagan did and trying to, just sell tax cuts for billionaires and stop with all the trolling. What do you say? You think it'll happen?